Why do I look so red? I don't know. Okay. Can you please sit up straight? Hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to make a really simple video today to show you guys some of the art materials that I got when I went over to Japan. So I'm going to go over a couple of pens that I got, including one pen that I feel like is absolutely incredible and it's like magic. So stick around for that. Let's get into the video. So when I first went to Japan, I didn't actually have a plan to get a lot of markers and traditional art materials because I'm actually not that into traditional art. And it's kind of a shame. I actually spend all my time in doing digital, and the reason why, it's not that I have anything against traditional art. I think that traditional art is great, but the truth is I'm just too cheap to be a traditional artist. Like the idea of paying money for oil paints or like really expensive Copic markers, I just feel really guilty every time I put pen to paper and I feel like I'm wasting that ink, and that's my money going down the drain. But anyway, I just haven't really been big on traditional art, and when I went to Japan I wasn't thinking I was going to get into it or anything like that. I just thought this would be a cool thing to check out. So I read about this store called Itoya, which is in the Ginza district. It's kind of like a high-class fashion shopping district. A lot of like big name brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all those kinds of things. But they also so happen to have this amazing art supplies store. It's only about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the station, not even that. And when I went there, I actually went to the wrong building. So if you do decide to go there, make sure you look for the second building. Google Maps will take you to the first building. The first building is filled with a lot more lifestyle stuff and it's kind of more generic and general. It's still amazing to go to. So what you do is if you enter via the main entry, don't go upstairs or anything like that. Just keep walking straight through the building and you'll find another exit out the back. And that leads you to another street. You walk maybe like 20 meters and then you'll see it, Itoya's second building. Yeah, once I found that I was like, yes, this is what I'm looking for. And I was just going to browse around. I didn't think I was going to really buy much. And then I saw what they had. So let's start with the first main thing that I got, which is Copic markers, and which is probably definitely the thing that you want to be picking up when you go to Japan. I got the Copic sketch markers. I didn't actually buy a complete set or a pack, I just bought individual markers because I was still kind of reserved about it, thinking, I'm not that much of a traditional artist. I'm just an idiot, I should have just bought the whole set. And what I did was, in order to reduce the amount of money that I was spending, I just chose a couple of key tones that I would need, so like a black and then a medium grey and a light grey. And then I also bought refills for each of the tones that I got. So these are the refills, and apparently they're good for about 12 refills, which will probably last me years considering how rarely I use these markers. The other thing that I got was a blender pen, which is basically like a pen that has no tone in it. It's just purely alcohol or like their special solution. Now the thing that I really regret is that when I went in there, I wasn't that knowledgeable about Copic markers or how much they cost. I just knew that I should buy some. But it turns out that the cost of Copic markers in Japan is extremely cheap compared to in Australia. So for example, a simple Copic sketch marker that I bought costs about 410 yen, which is around $4 to 5 Australian dollars. But when I buy them here in Australia, I looked up the prices when I got back from overseas and it was crazy. Like it cost almost like 10 Australian dollars for one of these markers. So it's like double the price. The other thing that I bought was this pen, which is a Maxon comic pen. Basically, it's a two-ended pen. It's a brush pen. It's not exactly the same as using a very traditional brush that you dip into ink separately, but it's kind of simulates that feel. The good thing about this is it's kind of more sturdier than a traditional brush. It's not like a horsehair brush or anything like that. It feels like a marker. So it's kind of got the sturdiness of a marker, but then the fine tip of a brush pen. Now the interesting thing about this pen is that it's double-sided and it has a thick side and a thin side. Now stupidly enough, I didn't actually check the thin side when I bought it, and my one just has like this completely empty thin side. Like there's no color to it, it's completely white. And I don't know if it's because I've got like a defective pen and that it's completely dried out, or if it's meant to be this way. Maybe I'm meant to dip it in something, maybe I'm meant to use it in a special way, I have no idea. yeah, I took an L on that one. But yeah, this pen is really, really great. Like I feel like it's transformed like the look of my drawings. So it gives it a really traditional look, and it's also really great for calligraphy. If you're really into typography and calligraphy, you're really gonna like this pen. And it's just so fun to doodle with. It just feels amazing. Yeah, I love this pen. Now to go along with all these markers, I also got a marker pad. But yeah, it seems pretty cool. I just got it because it said that it's for markers. I don't know anything about paper at all, which is probably something that I should learn. And I really wish I could have bought more paper when I was in Japan. I mean, I've never been excited about paper. To me, I've always felt like it's something that is kind of throwaway, and just, to me, it's always just been like A4 copy paper that lies around, or I just find a sketchbook or like a little post-it notes to doodle on. I don't really care too much about paper, but I really should, because when I went to Japan, I saw how seriously they take their paper. And I mean, yeah, like paper is a serious business. I was just so ignorant. Like there's all types of GSM, different weights, different finishes to the paper, and all these things can affect how your medium performs, and like the different textures and effects that you can create. Okay, enough about Copics. Let me get to the pen that I mentioned earlier that is like magic, okay? And this is the pen. Just looks like any other pen. Basically, it's called a friction ball pen, and it's by Pilot. And the magic about this pen is that you can actually erase it. Yep, that's right, you can erase it. And for me, that's really amazing, because ever since college or university, I've always drawn with ballpoint pens. And there's actually a couple of reasons for doing that. Number one, it was just really convenient. We had like a bunch of ballpoint pens lying around, and you know, when you're in like a lecture or a class, just ballpoint pen is the first thing that you have, so I just drew with it. The second reason is because I'm left-handed, so every time I draw with a pencil, I end up smudging all my drawings and they just end up ruined. So using a ballpoint pen worked out nicely. The third reason is that I feel like drawing with a pen is kind of like a discipline, or it's kind of like a way to make you draw better, be more accurate, because you have less room for error. Like if you screw up, you're going to ruin the whole page and you're going to ruin the whole drawing, and then you got to start again, which means you are going to waste a lot of paper and chop down a lot of trees, and I hope that the earth forgives me. But it really trained me to be efficient with my lines, and also be really conscious of my line work, and develop that confidence with my strokes, so that I'm not, you know, erasing and redrawing. It's kind of like when Piccolo wears like training gear in Dragon Ball Z. He does it because it makes him stronger, so then when he really wants to like kick ass, he'll take off the training gear and kick ass. It's a really geeky metaphor, but anyway.
Alright, stop your mumbling. I've heard enough of this trash.
Now the downside about these pens is that the feel is a little less inky than a ballpoint pen or like a traditional fountain pen. Like for example, when you use a fountain pen, like as you draw, like you can feel the ink pooling, and you can kind of push it around, and it has this really nice feeling. This one's kind of dry. And the other thing is kind of linked to that, is that because the ink is like a special formulation, it's kind of a bit more dull and not as vivid and rich as like a fountain pen or even a ballpoint pen. So the great thing to use these pens for is more like your planning out phase, setting up your structure of like your anatomy, or maybe like planning out your composition. And then when you want to do your final finish with the details and the more rich finish, that's when you go and use your fountain pens, your more permanent markers, you know, your brush ink and things like that. They aren't perfect, but they definitely are amazing, and they're even great for like simple things like filling out forms. Like I'm really terrible at filling out forms, even though it's like really basic stuff. When you fill out a form, you say, you know, fill out your first name and your last name. And as simple as it is to just write your first name and your last name, sometimes I screw it up. No lie. So this pen is great for that situation. The other bad thing about these pens is that, for example, with the 0.38, it's a very fine tip, which means that the lines are really sharp and accurate, but at the same time it means that the tip is very sharp, which means that it's going to damage your paper if you're really like, if you're the type that is a really hard presser. Then as you draw and then as you erase a couple of times, your paper's not going to last that long. So I guess, yeah, paper type really matters. If you just have average paper, you may be good for like a couple of strokes and a couple of erasers, and then, you know, your paper's going to start to degrade a bit. The 05 version is a bit better, like they're a bit more inky, they're thicker, and they're a bit easier on the paper. But you know, even then, you know, if you erase enough times, you're going to break the paper, and it's not going to be great. So that's pretty much it for my art supplies haul from Japan. It's very, very simple. Basically, just a couple of pens, a couple of copying markers, and just the essential shades and tones that I need to do like black and white ink work. When I go back to Japan next time, I'm definitely going to pick up some more advanced stuff. I'm going to pick up a whole set of colors in Copic markers, and I'm also going to get into watercolor painting, which is something that I've really started to explore more. If you enjoyed the video or if you learned something, please leave a like or a comment below. And if you're new here, as usual, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. And the last piece in my stationery is, of course, a Sharpie. Yeah, it's a Sharpie.